SAA limping along, military veterans cause a stir, and clampdown on BEE violations in South Africa. All of this and more in this week's episode of Free Marketeers News. Hey everybody, Chris here with another Free Marketeers News episode. This one for the week ending 15 October 2021. I hope you're all doing well. To jump right into it, the private sector has been urged to invest in South Africa. The government is calling on the private sector to contribute at least a third of the capital required for the country's major infrastructure projects, but it remains to be seen what the appetite for this will be, depending on how bankable the state infrastructure projects are for South Africa's financial services industry. At the Sustainable Infrastructure Development Symposium on Thursday, President Ramaphosa said, quote, "The focus is on capital investment in the large network sectors of energy, water, transport, and the digital economy. At least a third of the capital required for this infrastructure should come from the private sector," end quote. Annabelle Bishop, who is the chief economist at Investec, said, and I quote, "The private financial services sector generally stands ready to fund bankable state infrastructure projects, as occurs in other countries around the world, and indeed the lack of a pipeline of these is an issue," end quote. Ramaphosa said that infrastructure development on a massive and innovative scale is critical for the development of South Africa, and that inclusive growth and shared prosperity depends on it. The government, quote, "recognized that the current policy and legal framework for public infrastructure is fragmented and not really workable, with many overlapping institutional roles and accountability," end quote. The president said that over the next 12 months, Infrastructure SA, the body overseeing the country's infrastructure investment rollout, will propose amendments to the Infrastructure Development Act to clarify roles and responsibilities amongst organs of the state. Our next item, South African Airways, it's apparently back in the skies, flying again. I don't know if any of you have taken the leap to fly with the struggling national flag carrier. But less than 3 weeks after taking to the skies, SAA is already facing a backlash from staff. There are issues around cancelled flights and support problems. Only days after relaunching flights on 23 September, SAA made significant changes to its new international schedule. Some flights to Kinshasa and Lusaka were cancelled, and the airline delayed the launch of daily flights to Maputo. Let's see when the next bailout is coming for SAA. Our next item, a new high-capacity railroad is planned for South Africa. The Department of Trade, Industry and Competition plans to build a new rail corridor between Gauteng and the Eastern Cape to help reduce congestion at Durban's port. The corridor is aimed at the country's vehicle manufacturers and boosting the Tshwane Automotive Special Economic Zone, according to the DTIC Deputy Minister. President Ramaphosa launched the zone in 2019 following an international campaign to mobilize investment into the South African economy. It is one of the 10 approved special economic zones spread in 7 provinces. The government has so far contributed 2.5 billion rand to the development of the zone. The Ford Motor Company invested 16 billion, and a further 4.3 billion in investments is expected from automotive component suppliers who will occupy facilities within the zone. Our next item, South Africa will hit 20 months in a COVID-19 state of disaster. South Africa will remain in a national state of disaster on COVID-19 until at least 15 November. This is per regulations and announcements announced by Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Minister Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma. This was announced on Wednesday. The state of disaster was first declared on 15 March 2020, which will take its total duration to 20 months or 610 days. Dlamini-Zuma made the extension formal by publication in the Government Gazette. The emergency powers granted by the state of disaster is also what ministers previously used to ban the sale of roast chickens and cigarettes and haircuts, to set strict conditions for visiting Gauteng, and to decree exactly what kind of winter clothing shoppers could buy at various points in time, because all of that was needed to fight COVID-19. The extension of the state of disaster was taking into account the need to continue augmenting the existing legislation and contingency arrangements undertaken by organs of states. NUMSA has rejected a new wage offer, and therefore the engineering strike continues. The National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa, with around 155,000 members organized in the sector, have been on strike since October 15. They've been pressing for higher wages. On Monday, luxury car manufacturer BMW said it lost production at its main vehicle assembly plant in South Africa when a number of suppliers were affected. This is according to the chief executive at industry body Steel and Engineering Industries Federation of Southern Africa, Lucio Trentini. Quote, regrettably, at the conclusion of last night's meeting, we can report that we do not have an agreement, end quote. They plan to regroup and continue negotiations on Friday. The strike was launched after wage talks hit a deadlock and arbitration failed, with NUMSA demanding an 8% across the board wage rise in the first year and inflation plus 2% for the second and third years. CIFSA had offered 4.4% for 2021, inflation plus 0.5% in 2022, and inflation plus 1% in the third year. Yesterday, on the 14th of October, ANC military veterans were arrested after allegedly holding ministers hostage. At least 56 people were arrested at St. George's Hotel and Conference Centre in Irene in Pretoria after police rescued Defence and Military Veterans Minister Thandi Modise, her deputy Makwetla, and Minister in the Presidency Mondli Gungubele from a group of military veterans who allegedly held them hostage as they demanded 4.2 million rand each. The ministers were meeting with the liberation struggle veterans, comprised of members of various armed groups that fought apartheid, including Umkhonto we Sizwe, the Azanian People's Liberation Army, and Azanian National Liberation Army. The group demonstrated outside Luthuli House this past week, leading to the evacuation of the ANC's headquarters. And our final item for this week, a clampdown is coming on companies violating BEE laws in South Africa. The B-BBEE Commission will conduct site visits at businesses that have previously been found to have violated the Act and where it has received tip-offs about companies who are deliberately circumventing the regulations. This follows recent concerns raised by members of the public that the country's B-BBEE regulations seem to benefit those that are not intended under the law. The Commission said this includes foreign nationals, permanent residents, so those with refugee asylum status, and white people claiming to be black. The person who heads the investigations and enforcement of the B-BBEE Commission said that her office has dealt with cases that show the extent to which entities would go to achieve a higher status or to appear compliant for purposes of accessing contracts, authorizations, and benefits, with some verification professionals becoming complicit in most of the cases. She said, and I quote, misrepresentations and fronting are serious criminal offenses. Now that we have focused our attention on raising awareness over the years, we will not hesitate to refer entities for prosecution and the cancellation of licenses and contracts awarded, end quote. It's almost like when you mix the state and the economy and you only get ahead in life if you have the right political connections, that some kind of corruption and fronting will happen. It's quite odd how that seems to always happen when government portends to control and guide and quote-unquote shape parts of the economy. And I'm also sure that this is completely the best use of resources and time given the country's current 44% unemployment rate. But anyway, on that note, I will end this week's episode. Thank you once again for joining me. I hope you enjoyed and found the episode informative. If you did, please like the video before you leave and also subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't yet. I hope all of you have a great weekend and we'll talk to you all again next week. Till next time, take care. Bye-bye.